Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here with Bari Koral from Yogapalooza. We're going to be talking about tips for calming the classroom. But before we dive into that, Bari, we met many, many years ago at the National Kids Yoga Conference. I can't believe it was, I don't know how many years, but I've been watching your journey and it's been incredible. You've obviously you're a musician, right? And you're bringing that into classrooms, mostly preschool, as I understand it. So let's dive into get people caught up on your background. How did you come to create the Yoga Palooza and what are you working on right now?
Thanks. I started out as an adult musician, like that's what I was doing. And so a lot of times people are like, I listen to these songs sometimes, even when the kids aren't around, it's okay. Like the people that I work with are all, very high quality. And I need something to my ears. Like I listen to Sheryl Crow and Fleetwood Mac and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So that's how I started. But then I had panic attacks and anxiety attacks without any support. And this was like in the 90s when it's not like there wasn't the word mindfulness wasn't here. There wasn't like a
Mm,
yoga studio in every corner. Like my mom was talking to her hairdresser, like, what's wrong with her? Like no, there was just no
mm,
information like we have now. And when I eventually did find yoga, I got certified to heal my own body and my own nervous system because I had suffered for a long time. Honestly, like 7 years with a panic disorder. It was pretty bad. And actually when I started to learn about yoga, I got mad because I'm like, why didn't anyone teach me this? Like I was just so angry. But I was always a musician,
mm.
and so I was doing both. Like JetBlue hired me to be their yoga teacher, and I was so paranoid that like JetBlue was going to Google me and find out that I was a singer, and like I was always trying to keep it all separate.
Right.
And then my niece was born, and she was like, I was like an aunt with a car seat, and I started getting more into like the children's music world and writing songs. I took her to see a rock concert, and I was like, I like how these people approach this. They're not, dumbing it down. They're not clowns. They're like rock and roll musicians, but they're talking about, the whatever, crazy playground, but with a great melody. And
Yeah.
so I transitioned into that and writing songs for kids and being at a preschool as a music movement specialist and I just brought yoga in naturally. That's just something I did. I actually got hired where Lori Berkner taught for many, many years. So I
Mhm.
ultimately took over the reins from Lori and I followed that. If Lori just focused on yoga, but it was
Yeah.
developmentally, her songs were so popular because they were so what they could do. And that's
Yeah.
what I did. I was 120 kids a week for 8 years. And then I just had so much music and I had to start like sharing how you use these songs. So I would like travel around the country and be like, dancing bear. When I see a bear in a tree, that could be tree pose, but you had to like go around and show everyone at that point, and that got really tiring. And then I'm like, I should animate this and I should put
Mm,
it on YouTube. And, that journey started really a long time ago. And it was very intermittent. I put something
mhm.
out and then I did put out the yoga alphabet, and that became a viral video. The yoga alphabet, I think it's been viewed like 380 million times or
Oh
something
my
ridiculous.
God.
And it's one of
Yeah.
those things that's beyond you. Like people are
Yeah.
like, that's you, I know that song,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then the goal was like, how do I do more of that? And it
Yeah.
became more conscious. Like it just
Mhm.
became, I'm gonna double down. This is gonna be my forum, like I am gonna go for it. And it is just as you and I were talking before we hit record, blind idiot faith
Yes.
that like what
Yeah.
I am creating is like what the world needs, and it's going to work out for me financially, and
Yeah.
it's going to expand the hearts and minds of children and all the things that and their adults and all the things that we want to do. But blind flipping faith and all in bigger than ever now.
Right. Well, I remember this conversation we had years ago when we were talking about, where we are in our businesses, and you were really focused. I mean, you
Was
knew
I?
exactly. Oh, yes,
Hmm.
with the YouTube because it makes sense, right? I mean, there is a piece of blind faith, but you're so talented. Your music speaks to, like, I think about when my daughter was little. Shoot, I don't know, 4 or 5, whatever. We used to play your music when we bought your CDs at the yoga
Hmm.
conference, we play your CDs. And what I love about it is, like you said, it's rock and roll music for children. But so it helped her when she would be dysregulated, or it would just help distract her. You don't have to play your music just in a yoga class, right? Your music spans children's music as well. And I know that you act out your songs, but you don't have to. So there's a lot of flexibility in your music as well. So you've kind of hit all the things. Like you're bringing that talent, you're bringing the rock and roll music and a deeper appreciation for it. This isn't just somebody who's, has a great idea, works with kids and is doing a few tunes. Like you are, as you say, an adult musician. You're grounded in music. You're very talented in that way. So I think it's kind of that whole encompassing piece. It's not just that, just anybody's going to go create a YouTube
Yeah,
page, right? You're
yeah.
bringing the talent behind you for.
Yeah, well, that's, thanks and interesting. But the other important thing now is it used to be you had to save up all your songs and you would go in the studio and you would make a record. So like
Right.
write those first collections of songs that you're listening to, like back in
Yeah.
the olden days when we were making
Right.
CDs, those were the
Yeah.
songs that I worked with the preschool for like years and years. And like, what am I going to choose?
Yeah.
I'm going to choose these are the hits, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Now you could execute ideas so much faster. Like I have so much
Right.
material that you are probably not aware of because your children are older. And now it's
Yeah.
like all the things that I wanted to do, I can do. Like you
Right.
can get a sudden idea, like we need a silly to calm song, an idea that takes
Mhm.
them from silly to calm or something like that. Like,
Right.
and I could get that done. I could execute that in a few weeks, which is in the olden days.
Yes. I
So
love
so
that.
to be nimble and to be fast and to be able to react, and I also will say that talent, like we're on a, you don't wait for inspiration. Like
Mm.
we're on the clock in the sense of like, this is my job now. Like I show up in the studio
Yeah.
whether I want to or not. We're writing, and not everything is incredible, but more often than not, once I show up, I'm gonna come up with something that's good. And that
Yeah.
has also been, to approach it that way. Um,
Mm.
I've been I take it very seriously.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing, Barry, is that your North Star is you really care about the health and wellness of children at the end of the day through music and yoga. So what are you sort of hearing in schools right now that you're going into? What are you hearing from the students and sort of what are you seeing are the benefits of yoga and mindfulness in the classroom?
So I don't talk to as many children because I'm not in the classroom, but I talk to a lot of teachers, sometimes hundreds at once. And it sounds like a disaster for a lot of teachers. We thought that COVID was bad, and it was bad. And like this is, I had one client of mine who represents, I mean, hundreds of teachers. She said literally half the class was challenging behaviors. When I was in the classroom, it was,
Mhm.
we'd have one, we'd have two, we have a lot of resources to be able, like maybe one or, five in the whole school. We'd have a
Yeah.
lot of resources to work with those children. Now it's like, how does a teacher go in there? During the day, like their buttons are getting pushed and all of that. It's a lot. I've
Mhm.
One of my dreams is to really, and I haven't figured this out yet, but even while they're being educated to be teachers, even before they set foot in the classroom, I wish they had a really large yoga and mindfulness, understanding curriculum. That is something that's in education. I feel like schools for education. I that's coming. I don't know exact. I've tried here and there. But so my idea and hope is that as the teacher is participating, and of course I make it so easy to participate because you don't even just need to know the poses now with the songs. You can actually watch the video. I mean,
Yes.
Giselle, I like people to just play the song, just like you're a visual person with the books, and you know what I
Yeah.
mean, and more cognitive like that, or auditory processing. But I've also had this big YouTube channel, and a lot of people have screens.
Yes.
But as you're doing it, this is for you as well as your child. And then how can you practice these mindfulness activities? A lot of my songs now have built-in mindfulness activities. How can you practice this regularly so it becomes,
Yeah.
right there? And it's so much education outreach, but I think, I do hear, and I do have, this is, what fuels me. I have testimonials coming out of my ears that it was like, as a teacher, I self-regulate when I do this. I self-regulate. My kids calm down, but
Mhm.
I calm down. And it's that mirror neurons, if the teacher's elevated, then, how do they de-escalate the child? So I do feel like I'm part of the solution, which is great, as we all are, but man, we need a lot of
Yeah.
solutions. This is a heck of a time.
Yeah. Yeah, and to your point, they say a dysregulated adult is never going to regulate a dysregulated child, right? So it has to start with us. And I feel like that has been the shift also in the kids yoga world, is a lot of us are saying, okay, it has to start with the adult, right? It has to start with your own practice, your own enthusiasm for the yoga practice, however that shows up for you, whether it's mindfulness, meditation, the physical postures, whatever that is for you. So I love that. So what are you telling your teachers if you kind of are sitting in front of your group of like hundreds of teachers? What are you kind of saying are your three top tips for how to calm the classroom? Because ultimately, we want children to be calm and organized so they can be ready to learn and focus, right? And that's the whole key, is how do we get these children ready to learn so they can access the curriculum? What are your
So
top
I
tips?
really do, and I'm going to get into the activities here in a moment for kids, but you know, the easiest thing to at least affect is yourself, because it is, again, like one of my favorite sayings, an escalated adult never de-escalated a child. So it's like, there's chaos. What do you do in this chaos? Now, I could give you an activity to do, and I'll do that in a moment. But like, who are you in that chaos? What is happening? And I could say that in my kids' yoga classes, sometimes things went bananas, but I always sort of held my ground. I knew I could get them back. I had a lot of confidence. I did not go with them. I was sort of like observing. I used a lot of humor, like, okay, this is a 10, you know what I mean? If somebody walked in right now,
Yeah.
that's another, like, this wouldn't be a good time for the director to walk in, but it's more this quiet confidence that I can handle this and I can
Mm,
bring this down. And why can I handle it? And why can I bring them down? Because I have prepared them for this moment and many moments,
mhm,
that in calm moments, I have shown them candle breath, starfish breath, the listening game, rainbow relaxation, all my activities, or there are many activities out there. We are all sort of sharing activities, and so that they are prepared. So I might shut the lights. I might talk super quiet and be like, I'm taking some candle breath. Oh, I see Ginger doing, look at Ginger. I see Frank, not pointing out the children that are, oh, look at Sally. And then others tend to sort of fall in line. That doesn't happen from an every once in a while thing. These are children that it is drilled into them when they are calm. Um, and I will also say that the songs work too. My kids' yoga songs, they do organize the kids. If you put on going on a dragon hunt, if you put on, shocked us fly like a butterfly, which I added to. If you even going on a dragon hunt was a song in my friend Susie wrote. It didn't have yoga, and I noticed that song always got them, and so I expanded it for yoga. So you have your tired and trues, and the way your voice is. No, we're gonna wait. It's like you, and I'll just say one last thing. You learn this as a singer songwriter playing coffee shops. If you want people to quiet down, you get quieter, you don't get louder.
yeah, right.
So
Well, it's
that,
yeah,
yeah,
in the classroom, it's a pattern interrupt, right? Because they're so
yes,
used to hearing their teacher's voice, which honestly, in this day and age, that voice could trigger some children who
yes,
maybe
sure,
had a trauma
yeah.
episode or something. So I think with the music, it provides a pattern interrupt to the day. And that's how you can bring the focus and the attention in, right?
You can do that with the music, yes. Assuming that it's set up that they're going to hear it, they're not like screaming all over it. You know what I mean? They're like set up
Yeah.
for success. But usually that is the case, most often. But and even what you're saying, a pattern interrupt, that was something also I learned, just even like, like snapping fingers,
Mm,
or those kinds of, like, changing the Simon Says do this, like, without even waiting for them to stop, just they're
mm,
bananas, and you're like, Simon says do this, Simon says do this,
Yeah.
Simon says, do this. Good job, Sally. Simon says, do this. Norman, I see you. I got it. Simon says, do this. Do that. And then because they self-regulate with each other too, but again, it's part of the expectations. It's part of what we've been practicing when they're calm.
Yes. Right. And a teacher can only, because I substitute teaching, and I noticed that you can only come up with these short, snappy ideas when you're calm and organized. So
Yes.
if
Yeah.
you're in your head about like, oh my gosh, the kids are out of control, or what do I do with this kid, or what, all the things that you're thinking, or I've got a curriculum, or what if someone comes in, and just all that what ifs, if you're stuck with, as you talked about, your anxiety, panic attacks, if you've got all that bubbling up in you, it's very hard to come back to center and to come up with these fun little quick ideas, right? So
Yeah,
starts with
or
us
or
again.
if you have your own humor, it's okay. Like, oh my gosh, I'm really freaking out right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You know what
Right.
I mean? You might not
Yeah.
be completely calm in that moment, but you're
Right.
just, another thing that I've seen in the olden days, like a teacher that I used to watch would, like, if someone was like, if a child was like totally
Mhm.
dysregulated, as long as she had the bandwidth, somebody else could sort of be with the main class, she could take that child or maybe the music is taking care of the class. She could take that child away, rub his back, try to get to the root of what's going on, what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing more like calm corners, emotional regulation walls,
Yeah.
what do you need right now? What's going on? Let's identify, this feeling, because getting to the root is important. As we know, I've adopted two children, and there's almost always an explanation for the behavior, but having the time, the energy,
Yes.
the curiosity, the bandwidth. I mean, if you're the only one in the classroom, you've got 20 kids, there's only so much curiosity. But if you can, you can have, but if you could be allowed to have, but if something is getting them going and they're following, then maybe you can have a quick conversation, like, what's going on? Like, I see that you're having a really, like, what is it? And it's mama, is that, and
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
to, I hear you, I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
How are we going to do,
Right.
now
You're
how do we
totally
bring you?
talking my language. Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us a story about maybe how you've used yoga mindfulness in the classroom, or something that you've seen one of your teachers do.
I got a testimonial recently. I love this. Swimming Kansas. I do have a teacher training online that I've had a lot of teachers take. She took the training, and she was an assistant teacher, and she was in a regular classroom with a teacher who didn't have much yoga and mindfulness experience. And there was a dysregulated child who was taking up a lot of energy, and you could tell that the main teacher was really having a hard time. And Kansas said, this little assistant teacher, like 24 years old, she's like, can I work with her for a minute? Can I take her out of the classroom? And the teacher was like, please. They go
Mm.
out in the classroom, and she is short, choppy breath, the young child. And Kansas is like, can you be like me? Can you breathe like a candle? Can you breathe in? Can you breathe out? And the child's like, and she's like, can you follow me? Can you breathe slow? And the child was like interested, she was engaged. This was interesting to her. Then
Mm.
she asked, what's your favorite colors? And the child said her colors, and they did rainbow relaxation, like, breathe with me. Like, again, those mirror neurons, like, breathe in the color blue, breathe out the color green, do this with me,
Mm.
great job, beautiful, beautiful. And then, what's your favorite animal? I my puppy. Let's do a little puppy breath, or whatever she did, not puppy breath, but something like snake breath, breathe in, exhale. Beautiful job. She said that child walked back into the classroom. I mean, well, they were on the hallway for 2 minutes, walked back in, crisscrossed the applesauce, sat down. The teacher was like, did you, like, give her a tranquilizer? Like, what did you do? And this is the knowledge
Mm.
that you start to walk around with. And I call it your magic wand for calm. And, we all have our names for it, but it's like, that's the story. And that story is, once you know that, you don't unknow that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was thinking about magic wand. I think about, if I had a magic wand in classrooms right now, I would wish for all of us that we could just learn to pause, to slow down. We're on this hamster wheel of, the curriculum is so demanding, right? And now we're, behind because we lost a couple years from COVID, right? And we've got The parents have demands, the administration have demand, all these demands on teachers. We are only human at the end of the day. And if we were allowed to have a little space, if we allowed ourselves and that we could stand up to administration and parents, whatever, those little pauses, right? To get ourselves regulated, to get our students regulated, to be able to connect with them at a deeper level, because we've seen that, Barry. When you see a class that has a very, very challenging group dynamics, it's almost like you need to go like time out. We need to have an intervention here. We have to learn to get along because we aren't going to be able to learn
Yeah, how could you learn in that environment?
in this environment, right? And
Yeah,
all you got
yeah,
to do is get through the year. Like a
right.
lot of teachers like, I just got to get through the year. It's almost June. It's almost June, right? But that's what I wish. I wish that we were able to bring that calm, that sense of taking a deep breath, right? Because that 2 minutes interrupted her entire day and has given her the skills for the rest of her life.
Right. I mean, she'll probably have to keep learning, to have those skills for the rest of her life. But
Yeah,
yes, that is the potential. And I
right.
do think it is possible, I think it I mean, I work with a lot of preschools and we talked about this, like working in public schools, like, gosh, it's just a survival, sometimes fight to the finish. But a teacher who is aware of this and who knows this, and can take the pause and to not, fall for the hamster wheel all the time, the quality over quantity.
Mm,
Um, it is like, and I learned during COVID too, like how much learning are they actually doing during the day? Like it's not like every single second is an academic, so it's like, what
mm,
if you spent a little time on self-regulation, a little, and
mm,
then you sort of had just a richer potential. I don't know,
yeah.
it's I mean, we should be the presidents, but no, we
Right.
shouldn't. It'd be a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah, I
work.
know. And and I know I totally empathize. I mean, some days I come home from teaching and I'm exhausted. I just
Yes.
have to lay in my bed for half an hour looking at the
Yeah.
ceiling. Like I know
Yeah.
those feelings of like you just have nothing left and then you got to
Yeah.
get up in the morning and do it all over
Yeah.
again, So I
It's too
do
much.
get it.
How can anybody survive like that?
I know.
I
So
mean,
here we are
how.
chatting, but I do understand that it's really, really tough.
It's tough.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so what advice do we have for teachers, right? Who really want to integrate yoga and mindfulness, but they don't want to add more things to their plate. They don't have a lot of time or they don't have money to buy props, right? So what advice do you have for those teachers who
Well, I always say,
are
here's something
motivated?
that's actually not going to add more time. It's going to make better quality of the time that you have. You get so much time back. Think about how much time that you spend and you spend on these challenging behaviors and the negative thoughts and then
Mm,
you're exhausted and you're in bed, right? Like, so this is like the greatest bank account that you could have, There are a gazillion free resources. Like I could tell you that I've done on alone 4 or 5 webinars for Kaplan for an hour each. That's 4 or 5 hours of content. You've done your thing, you have so many resources. You don't need a million things. I think one thing that would be helpful is to focus somewhere, because sometimes when there's too much information, then you're like, I don't even know where to start. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
choose a person, choose Giselle, choose Barry, choose somebody who
yeah,
and just go a little bit, just a little bit. Don't fall for that. I need to know everything. Learn a skill or two, maybe take a training. I mean, I do think I've taken a lot of trainings, I'm not going to lie. I've invested a lot. I've
mm,
worked with great people. I've had to amass this knowledge. It wasn't just like given to me, I've had to learn it, and I've also observed a few people that are calmer, like when I had a great role model when I first got to Rockefeller. And I said to other people who were having problems in their classrooms, I'm like, come observe me, and
yeah,
most of them did not. Most of
right,
them didn't.
right.
And I could have probably saved them a lot of time. I got lucky because I had someone very good to observe.
Yeah, exactly. It's about find your people,
Find
find
your
your own
people. Yes.
unique
Yes.
voice and just giving a go, right?
Yeah.
And looping back to what you said before, the consistency makes all the difference, right? Consistency. So it's not about trying to introduce these activities when your class is out of control, but it is about dropping those seeds, shorter periods of time, but more
Yeah.
regular, right?
Yeah, just do a look up a couple of mindfulness activities and
Yeah.
just practice them over and over and over again. And
Yeah.
also, if you feel a little like unconfident, I always say like fake it till you make it, just fake your confidence.
Yes.
I mean, who cares? Like,
Right.
it's not about you. Like it is about you because you want to feel better, but you're helping your children. Don't let your
Yes.
own. And then the last thing I'll say is sometimes even just a 2% improvement. Like you're not
Yes.
going to change your
Yeah.
entire classroom,
Yeah.
overnight. I mean, well, if you worked with one of us, you probably would, but that's okay. But just look for like a 2%
Yes.
improvement,
Right.
that's enough for the next major shift.
Yeah. That reminds me of the book 10% Happier by Dan Harris, the journalist, right? And that's all he did. He just said, if I can meditate and be 10% happier each
Yeah.
day, that's it. It's just those incremental steps. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Right. So, how do we find you online and what are you kind of up to next? What's on the horizon?
And very easy to find online. YouTube is Yogapalooza or Bari Koral, and then yogapalooza.com. And next, I really am trying to make an impact. I think this is an important time for all of us. I don't think that playing small is going to help any of us, and so I do really think about, is this, how does this serve my impact? How, that kind of a thing. So sometimes I'm just thinking about that, what do I need to do or create or whatever. And then lots of we're in the studio. We have all these like new songs and activities in the pipeline, and
Mm,
I'm thrilled about it.
right.
I'm really excited. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your service, Barry. Just your work is amazing. It's reaching a lot of people all over the world. So really, we appreciate you and excited to see what's next for you.
Right back at you, Giselle. It was great
Yeah.
to see you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for your time. See
Bye,
you.
everyone.